Today I'm going to show you how to curry your laying hen. You ever wonder what they do with your laying hens after egg production has slowed down or stopped? Here in Trinidad, we eat them. Alright, so the first step for our curried layers is to wash and clean the meat. Now it's already been cut up, already been singed or slightly charred to help remove any excess hair. If I could just let it come in so I could just kind of show you what we're talking about. So all these little burn spots here, this is a very traditional way of removing any fine hairs or any remaining feathers on chicken, duck. So there's nothing wrong with it, just a slight char. It actually adds a little flavor to it too. And look, here in Trinidad Tobago, we love it like this. So just follow me over to the sink and let me show you how to clean this. So here in the Caribbean, we are obsessed with cleaning meat. Some people might say we over clean it or we remove all the flavor, but I mean it's just a cultural thing. We love to do it. So basically, what I'm doing here, I'm just filling the bowl with water. It's pretty full already because we're working with about 6 pounds of meat here. And what I'm gonna do is just add some acid to it. So here I have some rough skin lemon, and I'm just gonna squeeze it directly into the bowl here. You could use, some people, you could definitely use lime, some people use vinegar, some people even use flour. But I think the more common ones would be lemon or limes. And what I like to do is just kind of submerge the lemon in the water and squeeze it out just to make sure you get all in there. And I'm leaving it in. Squeeze the other half. Right, and just wanna mix it up just to make sure all our meat is thoroughly washed and cleaned. This helps to remove that gamey or fresh scent commonly associated with animals. and to the left of the bowl you'll see a strainer here. Now I love to use this because this really helps to remove any excess liquid. So what I'll do is just lift up a couple pieces in my hand, drain off the excess liquid, and just transfer it into the strainer. Lift it up, you could even squeeze it. You could even squeeze it too. And throw it in the strainer. You really don't want locally here we call this water dead water, fresh water. So we don't want that to end up in our pot at all. So earlier you would have heard me say layers, right? So basically what we call layers here in Trinidad and Tobago is a laying hen. Yeah, a chicken that lays eggs. We have various different breeds here that lay eggs for commercial purposes. So normally after their lifespan, we eat them. I know in some countries, believe it or not, they discard them, but we here in Trinidad and Tobago, we love them. We love them for the added flavor because they are a lot older than broilers. So they get a lot more time to develop that flavor. The meat is tender. It's not as tender as broilers, but the flavor compensates for that. Right, so what I'm gonna do now is just leave it in the strainer for about a couple minutes just to let any excess water drain off, and then it's time to season. Alright, so now it's time to season. So as you can see here, look at the apparatus just coming a little bit. You can see most of the excess liquid has been removed. You'll still end up with a little bit, but you want to try and ideally get out as much as possible. So now it's time to season. So we're going in with some salt, black pepper, Geera powder, and curry powder. At this time, I'm not going to be putting in any green seasoning. In the Caribbean, we use a lot of green seasoning, but I want to take full advantage of those fresh ingredients and add them at later stages of the cooking process. So for now, we're just going in with some salt and black pepper and our Geera powder. We're going to be adding a little more of this later on. Again, with cooking, you always want to build flavor and allow flavor to develop. Today we're using curry powder from Golden Roots. This is a locally produced, let me hold it up for you all to see again. This is a locally produced product here in Trinidad and Tobago. I tried it a couple times, love it. So we're going in with some of this, and we're going to be adding some more a little later in the cooking process as well. If I could get it out the spoon. Right. I mean, if you want to use a spoon, you could, but I prefer to use my hands. You take your hands and mix and gently massage all your ingredients together. Get it in all the nook and crannies. Wow, we're smelling that curry powder already, but yeah, so curry powder has turmeric in it, it has mustard in it, so that's why you get that signature yellow color. So ideally, for best results, I would recommend preparing and seasoning your meat the evening before, the day before, for best results, or at the very least, minimum 4 to 6 hours before you're gonna cook it. Yeah, so, oops, where are you going? So what we're gonna do now, we're just gonna let our chicken or our layer sit and marinate before we go on the stove. Here we're using a heavy set iron pot. I like the flat bottom ones in particular. They just cook a lot more evenly, and well, the iron pots again is a very traditional thing here in the Caribbean. So this is set over high heat. Once hot, go in with some mustard oil. Just give that about a couple seconds to heat up. Let me show you a little trick to know when your oil is hot in it. So once your oil is moving around your pot quickly, that's a sign that your oil is hot. And always start cooking with a hot pot or a heated pot. Some Methi seeds, whole cumin seeds or Geera seeds as we call it here, and some Caripulee leaves. I'm just gonna rough these up a little bit. I picked these in the yard this morning. Some Caripulee leaves. So I get all in the oil so that they could release its flavor and infuse its flavor into the oil. Now that that has been cooking for a little while, we're going in with some Scotch bonnet pepper. Of course, you know, you ought to use as much as you could. Some onion. And some frying thyme. Pepper hot. Alright, so I'm just dropping my heat down to medium here, because I don't want to burn the onions. I want them to cook and I want them to sweat, release flavor, release moisture, slowly caramelize, and slowly cook and begin to turn translucent in color. So next I'm going in with pimento, using pimento flakes. And now of course, if you have access to fresh pimento, by all means use your fresh pimento, but persons in the US and in Canada particularly may not have access to fresh pimento. This is an excellent option. Now let's go in some dehydrated pimento. Then another option, again, we constantly get comments and DMs about substitutes for Chadon Beni, substitute for pimento. Well, here you have it. You have both of them in dehydrated form, packaged and ready to go for you. So we go in with some Chadon Beni here one time. Right. Some garlic. As you can see, our pot is drying down a little bit, but that's okay. That's what we want. We want the onion to release its moisture, for that moisture to evaporate, because we're gonna hydrate this pot in a little bit. So my heat is still on medium. You can see our pot is starting to stick. That's what we want. Don't worry, we're gonna deglaze and rehydrate everything just now. So here I have some water. And to that, I'm gonna add some more curry powder. Remember I said that when we was seasoning. And I'm adding some ground masala. Just some more added flavor, another level of flavor here. So remember, curry powders are dehydrated products. So rather than just adding it directly to the pot, which some people do and that's fine, I like to hydrate my curries before I add it to the pot. So I just added it to some water. Just mixing it up just to help dissolve it and break it down. And then straight into the pot I'm going with it. Gently scrape the bottom of the pot, as this curry mixture is gonna deglaze our pot and just bring everything together. So what I wanna do, again, I raised the heat on high before I added the curry mixture. What I wanna do now is let this cook and dry down to a thick paste. What I did, I added probably about 3/4 of a cup of water back to the same container just to collect all the remaining curry powder. And when this dries down to a thick paste, I'm gonna add this water just to rehydrate or to continue to hydrate our curry powders. This again will also help you to not use as much curry powder as you may have been using if you was not hydrating it. Right? So we're just gonna let this allow the moisture to evaporate and cook down to a thick paste. But probably about 90% of the water has evaporated. We'll just move some of the steam for you to see. Just scrape it so you can see. It isn't stuck yet, just kind of stuck on the edges, but most of the moisture has evaporated. So I'm just using my spoon to scrape the pot, collect all, and we're gonna go in one more time with the rest of the water. Mix it in, still on high heat. Yeah, so we're just gonna let this do its thing, allow most of the moisture to evaporate, and then we're gonna add in our seasoned layers. Again, we're still on high heat. So I'm just gonna add in my layers directly to our pot here. Right, and still cooking it over high heat. You just wanna turn it up and coat all the pieces of your meat in that curry paste. Now, one of the advantages of cooking in these wide flat bottom pots is you get an even layer. Aside from getting an even layer of cooking, it's a lot easier to mix and move around your food. So as I said, this is 6 pounds of meat. You see, it's very manageable in this pot. And now I'm gonna cover it and allow our layers to cook, develop some color, and spring its liquid. I'm not gonna add any liquid as yet because the chicken has a lot of its own liquid. So if Red could see, you're seeing a lot of liquid already starting to spring. See all over here too, see it already starting to spring from the chicken. So we're just gonna cover it and leave it for about 5 minutes. Let's check our layers. Look at that. So without even adding any water, look at how much moisture our layers have sprung. Just pull it straight. Look at how much. Look at that. That's why I tell you, don't ever rush to add water or any type of liquid. Look at that. Look at how much it is. Look at how much liquid. Yeah, so that's going to give it a mix. Again, the reason for this is just even cooking. We want to make sure all our pieces get submerged in that liquid goodness. Gets the opportunity to soak in and absorb all that flavor. Now, even if you wanted more sauce, I'll still advise at this point not to add any as yet. Let the layer cook, let it spring its own liquid, let it develop in flavor, before you rush to add any liquid. So this has been on the stove for about 5, max 10 minutes now. You don't need to add anything else. Just take a little while to cook. Yeah, so, right, just leaving a little space in the middle again. This time I'm gonna drop my heat down to medium, cover, and we'll check back with him in about 20 minutes or so. All right, so it's been about 25 minutes now. So let me show you all our layers. So you see again, we haven't added any water, any liquid at all. And look at how much liquid it's sprung. I have it on a medium to low heat. So you get a gentle bubble. And look at it. Look at that. Wow. Now at this point, because we're about halfway through the cooking, this is where you would want to add your liquid. Yeah, so, and also, you know, some of us here in the Caribbean, we like to add like peas to it, pigeon peas, things like that. This is a good time to add that. So what I'll do, I am just gonna add water. You could also add coconut milk if you want. Today we just adding water. So I am just adding, and always add warm or hot water, and just almost, it covers it. Right, I'll stop there. And the amount of liquid is really up to your preference, depending on what you're eating it with. If your family likes sauce, who knows? That's really up to your preference. Once you're coming down to the end, you just taste and add and adjust your seasoning to suit. So what I did, I just raised my heat because I want to bring this back up to a boil. As soon as it's boiling, I'm going to drop it down to that low, gentle boil that you saw, which is like just above simmering, and just let this go, and we'll come back and show you it in the next 30 minutes. All right, so let's check out layer, see how they're going. Now here's the thing with layers, you never know if you're gonna get an 18-month, two-year-old layer, or if you're gonna get one from the prehistoric times. So it's really something to monitor and see. But if you get a tough one, just continue to add water, low to medium heat, and let them slowly cook. So we're gonna check it for doneness now. And all I'm gonna do is take one of the bigger legs, if I could find one. Here's a piece. And just take my knife and see, right, so you see how my knife is going through, little resistance. I know he's almost done. So at this point here, I'm gonna add in some diced tomatoes. This will help thicken up our sauce, give a little color to it. Mix these in, and remember, according to how much liquid you want, you know, sometimes if you're eating it with roti skin, you might want more liquid, or if it's just rice and you have dal on the side, you may not need. You know, this is also a good opportunity to add a little more if you still find it's a little too thick. For me, this has enough liquid, and he probably has about 10-15 minutes again. So I'll just redistribute, pat down just to try and get as much submerged in the liquid, in its own liquid, as possible. I'm gonna cover and we'll check back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes has passed. Let me just show you all. It's always best to check the dark meat, as that takes longer to cook than the, oh yeah, that's good to go. So now I'm just gonna add my last two ingredients. Some fresh Chadon Beni, trying to take full advantage of the aroma of the fresh herb. Alright, so we could just give that a stir now, and the only thing left to do now is to taste. So we'll plate up and then taste. Alright, y'all, we come to the best part. Time to taste. Let me get this piece sticking like a piece of leg. Before you taste it, you all should smell this. It's pouring off the bone. A little heat, curry, saltiness. Chadon Beni in the end really just helps to bring it to life. You try to give us a little trouble, but don't rush to throw him in the pressure cooker. Just take your time, add a little water, leave him on the stove, let him slowly break down, you know. This keeps it on the bone and it allows it to melt in your mouth. As opposed to it just literally being obliterated in the pressure cooker. Nah, you don't want that. So apply a little patience and you'll get just like this. Y'all let us know how y'all eat your layers. Have you curry it, you curry stew it, you stew it. Let us know. Alright guys, thanks so much. Bye.